My name is Tzvi. I'm head of
My name is
content.
Avner. Oh, my name's Evan. Sorry. Hi. Go ahead, Svi. I'll try not to cut you out this time.
I'm head of content marketing at iCare Pro. Content is a big deal here because it helps practices be seen. iCare Pro is, for those who don't know, we're a digital marketing company focused exclusively in optometry. And this is our first and hopefully one of the last coronavirus specials going live on Facebook, working from home, obviously. And we want to just talk to as many practices as we can as we're here, letting people join. We do want this to be open with comments. As much as people are wanting to participate, we're going to try to get to everybody's questions. And the focus here is just, we're really going to dive into what some of the significance of COVID-19 is going to be for your practice and some ways that you can really use it to your advantage, if that's possible. And really, we know it's a ridiculously tense and uncertain time. There are a lot of practices that are now closed to anything but emergency ocular care. That number is probably going to increase as more and more states, demand that people hunker down. So we're really getting into a tough time, and we're really, we're there with you, and we really feel that with you, with our clients, with prospective clients, with any practice owner who's out there. And so I want to thank everyone for joining. You can continue to join throughout as you get notification that we're live, and I do really urge everyone to leave as many comments as they would like for us to address. And so I'm gonna introduce Evan here. So Evan is our VP of marketing and has been involved in many important projects here at iCare Pro, including getting specialty marketing going for practices doing ocular optometric medical specialties, something I was also very involved in. And Evan and I often work together to talk, to practices about how they can really maximize their growth, even in times such as these. So, we're continuing to put out stuff all the time, and we will be continuing to put out stuff that's about the kind of communications you can be doing to keep your patients engaged. We're going to keep sending that out, so you can check out our website, icarepro.com, sign up for our blogs, check out our webinars and our ebooks, and all those are, have great tools. It's all free that you can be using, and this may seem like an odd time to start thinking about that, but it isn't. So what I want is, I'm going to pass on the baton here to Evan, and Evan, why don't we get started with the main point here, which is, what's going on with COVID-19, and what does that mean for a practice in terms of how they, how you can strategically think about the here and now and then the long-term growth.
Great, thanks, Svi. So first off, just I want to also just say the same thing as Svi did, which is we do hear from practices every single day, and we know what everyone is going through, and we really feel the struggle that everyone is going through. I mean, I'm at home with 3 kids, so I feel the struggle too. But it is a tough time, and running a small business or a medium-sized business, when cash flows are short and salaries are due, and it's always a question of what do you cut, what don't you cut. And so the purpose of this call or this Facebook Live is not to go into what to spend money on. It's not to cover every single angle of how to deal with COVID-19. Although hopefully, as Svi mentioned, we will be putting out a lot more content, both on Facebook Live and on our website, and how to deal with it. But really, we wanted to just talk about one topic as it relates to COVID-19. And that topic is really about leveraging a very unique opportunity, an opportunity that a few months ago I would have never considered even to be viable for practice growth. And that opportunity is time. Having worked with, iCare Pro works with 1,800 practices. Both Svi and I have managed many practices before, and every marketing manager at iCare Pro can tell you that there's a common theme with ODs, which is they don't have much time. If you want to put it a different way, they got into the business to be a doctor, not to run a business. And the challenge is that they run a fairly complex business on top of seeing patients. Michael Pote, who's the CEO of the Growth Co-op, he told me that there's one common denominator between every single practice that has 10 million in revenue and above. And that is that the owner, the doctor who owns the business, doesn't see patients all day. it's very hard to manage a growing business, highly successful growing business, and to be busy all day with patients. And so, if you want to estimate, I would actually estimate that the average OD probably puts in around 2 hours per quarter, which is around 8 hours per year into their growth. So not just maintaining, but actually kind of taking the next steps to build the practice. Um, and with the situation as it is, especially in the practices that have closed up by and large, and the ODs are looking for something to do, if you were to just take 5 hours a week for 4 months, that would equal around 10 years of what a normal OD would put in, which basically just means that you can take your practice and put it 10 years ahead, at least on marketing or on a specific goal within marketing. And that's a tremendous opportunity, whether you want to grow the general care part of your business, the specialty part of your business, the optical part of your business, or even just the managerial aspects of your business. It's a huge opportunity to really dig in during this situation and start really building your business for the future, so that when you come out of COVID-19, you're not struggling to make up for lost time and for lack of revenue, but you're actually on far better ground than you ever were before.
Yeah,
So I would say that that's really the goal of this, is to say, let's take a step back for a second and not discuss what you should or should not spend, because I don't think we're in a position to tell you how to manage your cash flow, but really tell you how to manage your time so that you can walk out of this a little bit stronger as a business, a little bit more focused on the growth areas that are important to you as a doctor and to your practice. So that is really kind of what I think we want to go away from this conversation.
absolutely. So, what are some of the key, strategies that can be applied? Given that we have more time than we would like in our practices, what are some of the key areas that a practice can focus on for their growth?
So that's I think the question here, right? You have time now. Where do you put it? So the first question would really be, what is important to you? Where do you really want to grow? If you're a VT practice and you want to start building that part of the business, you might want to look at doing videos or doing writing blogs or content, or building up your referral network, or even just researching who to reach out to and starting to plan for post COVID-19 referral building from occupational therapists or pediatric or neurologists, those kinds of endeavors. The same would go for sclerals or myopia management or dry eye or low vision or any specialty that you want to build. I would say that there are probably two or three main things. The first is going to be video. It's a hugely powerful thing. Referrals is the third, and then maybe just general planning and strategic kind of orientation during this time. Alternatively, you might want to build your general care part of the business, and you might want to build your optical part of the business. And there are similar ideas too. I mean, video is still very important, but there you might want to also look at planning out your social so that you actually are tackling social in a meaningful way. You might want to also plan out your trunk shows and events and promotions and stuff like that. And so those would be kind of like the big picture kind of initiatives that you could take. And then we can kind of dig down or drop into a few of those to kind of give an example of what that would look like.
Okay, excellent. So, what do you think about, for practices that are open only for ocular emergencies now? Is that therefore, I mean, my thinking is that should therefore be a focus of their website content, make sure they're showing up for searches for, eye care emergencies, ocular emergencies, because that's the kind of patients you can still be seeing. And frankly, it's probably beneficial to have patients in terms of reducing the spread of the coronavirus. Having patients with an ocular emergency come to their eye doctor is probably better than hanging out in the emergency room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a whole, it's funny that in general, I mean, Eye Care Pro, we're big believers in eye emergency as a way to generate new patients. So having a page about pink eye and styes and scratched eyes and chemical spills and something stuck in your eye and all of these different topics, and then targeting.
Frankly, it's probably beneficial.
You got to mute yourself. are all, in general, as a just practice builder, it pretty much always is a good idea to work on that side of the business. I think for directly related to kind of counteracting the negative repercussions of COVID-19 today, it's not necessarily going to work for every practice. Content takes time. And depending on how long this lasts, is your pink eye page, is your sty page going to generate patients in 1 month? For sure not. In 3 months, probably yes. And in 5 months, almost for sure. And so, that's one idea, but not necessarily kind of what I would say would be the primary focus. You could also run, I mean, I know that at iCare Pro, we're now offering Google Ads specifically targeting eye emergencies as a way that's instant and can allow you to leverage that. And that would be on a case-by-case basis to see how big is your city, what's your market like. But definitely that is something that should be considered as a short-term generator of revenue for a practice. In terms of long-term, there's obviously a lot more that can be done. And so I prefer, I think, to focus on the long term just because the short term is tricky to navigate. There's no real instant answer.
Okay, so then, let's take a step back, because I think a lot of people watching this may be unfamiliar with, even how do you start developing? Let's start with, social media. What should be done now with your social media to build an audience and engage? And then how is that going to help when this is all over?
So the first thing would be to go to iCare Pro's website, icarepro.com, go to our webinars, and check out the Review of Optometric Business webinar on social media and webinar on social media campaigns. Both of those are really a goldmine of information of what works within optometry for social, what you should focus on, where you're at. And right now, it's not about implementation as much as it's about just putting in time and effort to really strategically define, plan, put in the procedures, who does what, when, how much, what platform are you going to start with? Are you going to start with Facebook, Instagram, all of the above, right? Who's going to do it? What are you going to be doing? What's the focus? How do you build your audience? How do you interact with your existing patients? How do you reach new patients? So there's a lot of depth within social media. And so I would say anything you're going to do right now is going to start with primarily education. So for example, if you wanted to do video, you'd go to icarepro.com and you'd watch the webinar on video if Svi posted it.
On video, we have another one that's going to be updated shortly.
Right.
There's new stuff coming up on there all the time. And, I would say that given the fact that, we find ourselves with much more time, particularly if we're, practice owners or staff, than we would like, now you can really start experimenting. What kind of content, tagging, group shares, what kind of approach really works? What gets people engaged? How are you going to build that audience now? Now is absolutely the time for the kind of trial and error that it takes to really master the nuance of social media as a practice owner. And since everyone is at home, you have a sort of a captive audience bored to tears as they as they try to handle their kids and their work and the stress of everything going on. So now is absolutely an ideal time to be figuring out what kind of messaging gets people involved. And my thinking is that in the right now, it's going to be about reassuring patients, but also wider engagement. How to keep kids occupied. Maybe connecting that to eye health. How to keep your kids, something that in the way that they're learning about eye health, or and adults as well, in a way that's interesting and engaging. Just keeping you and your practice in the back of their minds. That they know you're there, that you're going to be the practice they're going to be calling up, real fast when this is all over, and they all need, new glasses and eye exams and perhaps, any optometric specialties, as Evan was touching on. So now, experiment now.
So what I would say is that you want to balance your efforts to the short term and the long term, and you want to choose a target for the long term. So you want to say short term, what can I do to offset some of the loss of revenue? So maybe I can commit to doing a short article on an eye emergency every week. right? What can I do for the long term, for the midterm, or for just like, right after COVID-19? Maybe I can start being a little more active on social with my existing patients, and reassuring them and interacting with them, just being at the top of their mind, like you said. And then in the long term, I would pick one strategic goal and say, okay, I want to move forward with building my specialty care part of the business. I want to move forward with planning out social media. I want to move forward with really working on how to increase patient retention and recall, right? And then within each of those topics, then I would look for some kind of education. So iCare Pro is a great resource for that. But we all know there are plenty of great resources online related to all aspects of running an optometry practice. And so start to learn a little bit about what other practices have done successfully, and what's worked across them, and what to do and how to implement it. So for example, the video webinar or the referral ebook that we have, or the social media webinars with our review of optometric business, really give you a good starting place. You're not just starting from scratch trying to figure it all out. And then it's putting in the time and effort to actually implement it. I personally love video. I think that video is one of the best usages of a doctor's time. And the reason why I think that is because videos help your website, right? And so no matter if you're talking about general care, you're talking about early detection of AMD, you're talking about eye emergencies, you're talking about specialty, you're talking about optical topics. The best way to do that, business really give you a good starting. The best way to actually interact with people who are coming. Well, first of all, the best way to actually get them to come to your site or to find you is video, because video can be distributed to more places. So YouTube, second most used search engine on the world, to Facebook, to your website, to your Google listing. And so if somebody has pink eye and they Google, that, and they will more than likely see you because you have that video on your site and maybe a little bit of content. They may see you on YouTube. And then the same would go if you have a page on keratoconus and you're trying to improve the chances somebody's going to find you. Video will help. And when they get to that page, I think video is the key. The second most visited page across all of our 1,800 optometry websites is the doctor's bio. And that's because people want to get a feeling of who the doctor is, what they're passionate about, what their expertise level is. Do they seem like a kind of person I would want to go see? And when it comes to specialty care, that's even more so. If it comes to traveling for specialty care, so even more so. And so imagine, if I were to advise practices, I would say your first goal would be that make as all the top pages on your site. Let's say you have 20 pages about general eye care, or you have 20 pages about specialty care. Get a video of you talking about that topic. How long does it have to be is really, a little bit dependent on how long you think that the person, what information they need. And then in terms of what else you do with that video is really going to depend on your abilities and time. So if you're working with a marketing company, then this is a great opportunity to leverage that. So for example, on our OD Specialty or OD Capture programs, we will edit the video, we'll transcribe it, we'll add it to YouTube, Facebook, the website, your Google listing. We'll use the transcription as a blog. So every single video you're giving is really getting maximized. Now, if you're doing it without spending money, or with a different marketing company or a lower level service, you may not have all those options, and you may just go for uploading it to YouTube and adding it to your website. But if you have a good strategy and plan in place, it's really doable. And a few months from now, post COVID-19, you turn around and you have 30 pages with videos on them. And that increases the likelihood of people scheduling on every one of those pages. You have 30 videos on your YouTube channel, and you have 30 videos on your Google listing. Those are really, really impactful things to accomplish, and what most ODs will never, ever accomplish in their whole career. And so that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and I would add, another crucial point about video, and that's the way it will actually increase the conversion rate and the retention and the branding, impact of your website itself, and the various social media that you're putting it out on. And the reason is primarily that, you're building trust. You're becoming far more relatable than a wall of text. And people don't remember much about what they read, and they don't read that closely. People retain, when they skim, 5 to 10%. of the information there on, and if they're, they're not reading it carefully for a school assignment. But video, because it's visual, we don't have to tell you guys how visual learning is. The fact that it's so much more conducive to learning and memories, makes you more memorable. So they're remembering your face and your practice and the information you've imparted, and you become that talking voice about those subjects in their mind. You become the local expert. So it's really all around a phenomenally powerful medium. Absolutely.
And I think one of the concerns a lot of people will have is, you're in a slowdown in a business, so cash flow becomes the most important thing, right? You have to pay salaries. You can't just not pay salaries 1 month. And so you have to start cutting costs. That's a must. That's not a question. And as many costs as you can and as fast as you can is really key. And so once again, I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't spend money on marketing. But what I would say is that if you're in a marketing package or you have a marketing program that you can fully leverage, and you know that in 4 months you'll get 10 years what a normal OD would get out of it, so that would be a great long-term investment that may be warranted at the time, even though you should be cutting as many costs as possible. And if you take it like why the practice buys a LipiFlow or an OCT, they're not getting that paid off in 2 months, right? It may take a year, it may take 2 years to pay that off, and but it's a long-term investment that's for the benefit of their patients and for the practice. And so I think in this case is that marketing obviously has to be marketing budgets and stuff like that has to be something that's on a case-by-case basis, that each practice kind of looks at their goals, their ability to put money into marketing. But for the practice that is able to fully leverage it, it's a tremendous opportunity that will never happen again, more than likely. Hopefully not. And so that would be what I would say is kind of the key here, is that, whether or not you spend money, because you can also leverage this time without spending the money. It's just if you're spending money and you're considering whether to cut those costs. So I would question if you can leverage that to the extent that it's still worthwhile. And if you're not in a program that can, or you don't think you can leverage it, or you really don't have the option to spend that money, so then you should cut it. I mean, it's not everybody should spend money right now. But the key thing is, even without spending money, there are tremendous opportunities to build your business. And we all know this is going to end at some point. And when it does, you really want to be far ahead so that you're not just struggling to catch back up, but you're really, you're hitting the ground running. You're much stronger than you ever were before. And this is a great opportunity for that.
Yeah. So, I was about to ask, and then Becky Atkinson posted a really great question.
Oh no, Dr. Atkinson. I used to manage her practice for a few years.
Okay. Well, she's asking,
amazing practice, amazing doctor.
Yeah. Do you recommend a video to post ASAP to reassure patients, or another short-term video? And then the second part of that is how to do this. So let's quickly go through the how to do this, because again, you don't need to spend money to make good video at all, like nothing. So maybe jump a little bit to that, and then talk about how you would go about reassuring patients via video, which I think is a great way to do it, by the way.
Right. So video is very, very easy. ODs are probably the best suited people to do video, because they talk to patients all day and answer questions all day and explain things all day. And so you want to treat a video as if you were talking to a patient. And if a patient would ask you, what should I do if I have a scratched eye? You would answer that. And then they say, I have rod cone dystrophy and I have trouble with night driving. Is there anything that you guys can do? You would answer that. So with video, it's really, from the OD perspective, I love to treat it as a question. Just answer a question. Don't prepare. Don't come with notes. You know what to say, and if you don't, then you probably shouldn't be talking about that topic. And now, in terms of the equipment setup, that kind of stuff, it's almost too easy. Right now, we're doing video on our webcams from our computer. That seems to be pretty decent. On the webinar I did with Dr. White from San Diego, he also did video on his webcam, and he found that to be the easiest situation. But you can also do it with your cell phone and a little tripod for your cell phone. Let's see. Oh, this is a fancier tripod for a cell phone, but You put your cell phone on it, and you can take video. And that's pretty much it. The cell phones nowadays have amazing cameras, amazing audio, and you really don't need to worry too much about lighting. And if it's too dark, just find another place to shoot it. And then when it comes to putting those videos up, so uploading to YouTube is fairly easy. Uploading to your website should be relatively easy. Once you've uploaded to YouTube, you can just send whatever company is managing your website, you can send them the link. If you're on a more advanced marketing program, they usually can help you. And Dr. Atkinson, I believe you can talk to your marketing manager and they can guide you through that and help you. So for a normal practice that necessarily isn't working, isn't necessarily working with iCare Pro, so I would say the first step of doing video would be to watch a webinar, right, and just get a kind of feel about what the topics and the, that's really neat. And then the second step is just doing them. I've done probably 500,000-600,000 videos. The first 100 were pretty tough, right, and it gets easier and easier. And so, if you want to do, just sit down and start yakking and talking, and then and just even plan to throw those videos out and just get comfortable behind a camera and talk, and experiment with different lengths and times and what you want to say. But the idea is that it shouldn't be too difficult for you. So if it's easier to do it on your webcam, or it's easier to do it on a phone, or if it's easier to have a script, so those are all fine. In general, the main thing you want on that video is not for it to be fancy, not for it to be the polished, but to be authentic, genuine, caring, concerned, right? And especially when it comes to anything that's more medical related. If you're talking about the optical side of the business, then that's going to be a little bit different. And so there's nothing wrong with shooting it where it's not professional, because that's not the goal. When it comes to the second component of the question, so that's really related to how to do the video itself. And that we have great content on that Svi's put out, ebooks, webinars. We have even I believe more information that we could probably send you if you wanted on how to do video. It's pretty robust what we have, that you could really just get started. When it comes to how to deal with the current situation with video, so in general, like Svi said, video is just the most effective form of communication outside of, let's say, meeting face to face, which probably isn't recommended nowadays due to social distancing. And so I definitely think that you should be putting out videos to your patients, reassuring them, interacting with them and engaging them. Dr. Atkinson, your practice has been in that community probably, I don't know exactly how many years, but I believe 35 plus. And then the community knows you. You're part of that community. They care about you. You care about them. And so it's much more, you're going to get across that message by having a video. And that can go through emails. That can go on your website. You can do it on your Google listing. You can add it to your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, and it can be all the same video. In an email, you can't paste the video into the email, but you can send a short email and then have it link back to a blog post or to your homepage where you have that video. So I think nowadays is a great time for the doctor to be front and center. And I would even go so far to extend it out and say, you're a community doctor. Nowadays, the community is worried about healthcare related information. And you're a resource. A lot of fake. I got a WhatsApp message from my mother-in-law today that was not good. Apparently, if you drink hot lemons, all goes away. There's a lot of very, 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 very bad information out there. And being a doctor in your community, this is a great opportunity, I would say, to even take advantage of that and becoming an advocate in your community, a spokesperson in your community for healthcare. That is an amazing idea in terms of really leveraging the situation. Once again, it's not going to give you anything tomorrow, but you're building your business, you're building your brand, you're building community engagement, you're being you're being forward thinking in terms of, so even just dealing with your current patients, I think it's a must. It's a great idea. And in terms of extending that beyond and becoming like a voice in your community for healthcare related information, I think that's a great. And even I love your idea, Svi, which is even, we all know that the situation right now is that we all have kids at home, or the community has kids at home, and so this is an opportunity for us to start seeing how we can engage with our community a little bit deeper, a little bit more impactful.
And I would add, to what you just said, that I think it's more than just okay. It's actually, I think all practices should take a stand to be that voice of good, sound medical advice. Even if we're not epidemiologists, flattening the curve is something a lot of people don't understand, and they don't understand why it's so important to keep hospitals from being overrun. That is something I think every practice could make an impact by getting that word out there. And it does tie into the fact that you're taking ocular emergencies. You're keeping folks away from hospitals unnecessarily and lessening that burden.
I would say also that if you are open, because there are quite a few practices that are still open, so there's ways that you can use video to reassure your patient base. I believe it was Complete Eye Care in Belmont, North Carolina, Dr. Markson, that had a great video about showing the staff cleaning the testing equipment and the frames and all of that. And Burger King also has a great ad campaign going out right now, which is, you're not thinking about us, but we're thinking about you. And then they basically go through all the steps they're taking to prevent the spread of COVID-19 at their business. And so I think that if you are open, that also has a place to really reassure both existing and new patients that that you're taking it seriously and that you're a safe place to visit. And then anyway, so I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities to use video, both in terms of dealing with your existing patients today, if you're still open, existing patients if you're closed, and then also engaging with the community if you're open or closed in general. As well as looking for a future in terms of how you can expand your reach into the future. And one thing that I believe is one of the most underutilized growth opportunities for practices is building out a referral network for specialty care. For if you do you have diopsis, you do early detection of diabetic related health issues, building a referral network for that. Or if you're doing VT and myopia management and you want to build a network with the pediatric healthcare community in your area, or you do VT and you want to do sports vision, a lot of practices have always kind of considered it. There are a few practices that are they've built their whole practice on referrals. Yeah. And one of the biggest issues is that it is a major time investment by the OD. It's it's the OD meeting with people, or the OD working on it and setting up appointments and talking to them, or having an event. And there's a lot of planning and effort that can get involved. And that's something that can be done also with this extra time.
Absolutely. And someone just asked where they can get that. I think I'm going to post that to the Eye Care Pro Facebook page. But that would be, that video of the staff cleaning the office.
Oh, okay. I'll find it.
All right. But, about referral building, I think it's also important to keep in mind that the other folks you're getting in touch with, perhaps less the pediatricians, but more the, certainly the trainers, the PTOTs, they have time on their hands too, finally.
Yes.
So
yes, they do.
Absolutely, they're also scrambling and also thinking, how can I, with sitting on my hands, do something to benefit my practice down the line, as I'm losing, all my business. So, now is the time to make strong connections and relationships.
Yes.
For that referral building. So, to sum up, first of all, if there's any final questions before we wrap up, now is the time to write those in. This video will be available to view whenever on our Facebook page. But, for those who joined late, so if you had to summarize in 30 seconds, what should a practice be doing right now and thinking about and experimenting with, what's the direction you should go in if you really want to, one, weather the storm as best you can, and two, recoup revenues as powerfully and quickly as possible when it's all over?
So in terms of weathering the storm as best you can, I don't know if that's the purpose of this conversation. And I think that the plans are that we're going to be putting out a lot of information in terms of how to weather the storm, interviewing different people, talking about different things, having different material out there for you. But the purpose of this conversation was to highlight a unique opportunity to leverage your free time in a way that would never have been possible only a few months ago, and that probably will never be possible ever again, and to bring your practice to a place which would normally take 10 years in a few months, and that is choosing a strategic growth goal, putting in the time. I'd say if you can say, I could put in 5 hours a week, you're there, right? And then whatever it is you put that 5 hours a week into, that is going to make a huge difference post COVID and for the long run, right? And then really it's hard to say what that initiative is, whether it's video, referral building, social media, whether it's patient recall and retention. All of those are amazing opportunities for growth in the long term. But it's clear that for every OD I've ever talked to, time is the biggest problem that they have, or lacking that they have, and this is an opportunity to take your time and to put it in a way that no marketing company, nobody out there can do for you, whether or not you're working with a company that can support you or whether or not you're not. And it's a great way to ensure that after COVID-19, you're in a far better place than you were before.
Awesome. Thank you. Kim Dolman comments that thank you, and that she's inspired. And Dr. Dolman, we love you, and you're an inspiration to us.
And feel free to reach out to either Tzvi and myself. My email is Evan, EVAN, at icarepro.net, and ZVI at icarepro.net. And or you can just comment on any of our Facebook posts or this Facebook Live video, and be happy to help you out and talk to you and give you ideas and send you resources and anything you need.
Check out our website. We've got so many materials there, from the basics of just how to physically set yourself up to make good video, how to upload it to YouTube, to like in-depth webinars about the types of content you can be doing, video content, written content, optical campaigns, mastering social media, trunk shows, all of it. Explore that, read it. Now is the time that you unfortunately have, but use it. And that's the main thrust here.
And one last thing, thank you very much for joining us. But if anybody has, anyone listening has ideas that they want to share with the greater optometry community about how they're dealing with COVID-19, or they're planning for the future, we'd love to set up another Facebook Live like this one and have you join us so that we can share your best practices with other ODs out there that are facing a really difficult time right now for their business. And so thank you for joining us, and then everyone should stay safe, and hopefully we can all return back to business as normal, and business even more than normal very shortly.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know how long I can stay with 3 kids at home. All right. Thank you so much.
To our page. We're happy to get things out there. Share it to our page. Other docs will certainly see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. Let us know.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.